Hello, Joe Appleyard here from the DIMP Digital Podcast. You're about to listen to the first part of the Metal Gear Solid special. Now this actually spans over 3 episodes, so you'll be getting the second part on the 8th of February, and you'll be getting the third and final part on the 22nd of February. It's going to be a bit of a wait, but trust me guys, it will be worth it to complete the trilogy. Alex Menzies is the guest that helps me through all 3, and in this opener we talk about Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of the Patriots. Sit back, relax and enjoy. Beep. Hello and welcome to the 11th session of the DIMP Digital Podcast. I'm your host Joe Appleyard. Now we've got a very special podcast here to celebrate a series of games that has gone down as one of my favourite of all time, and that is Metal Gear Solid. I've drafted in a very special guest to help me through this. He's a DIMP Digital Podcast newbie, and he's making his debut on the show. It's Alex Menzies. Alex, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, thank you. Now, I saw you recently over the holiday period, but I think before then, I can't even remember the last time we'd seen each other, let alone spoken. So much so, I'd even forgotten that I'd met your other half, which is poor on my behalf. But
she did tell me that, actually, on the way home. She was like, oh, I did say hi to Apps, and I gave him a hug, and he was like, oh, yeah, nice to meet you. He's one of them people, is he?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. She said I was very drunk, but it'd been
Probably.
that long. I mean, we'd had
Probably.
we'd had a bit of dialogue in the lead up to that rendezvous, but
yeah, it
had been so long that I'd forgotten a lot of things. As such, I'm not even aware if you still have a nickname. I mean, put it this way: the last thing I remember calling you when you was back down these parts was XL Cheeseburger. So
I forgot about that.
Pick the bones out of that one.
Yeah,
I think that got transformed from Ming to large Ming to XL Ming, and then obviously the Burger King do an XL cheeseburger, and that's how that happened.
Yeah.
But do you just go by the geese of Alex now, or Menzies, or is there still sort of, is it all sorts?
Fortunately, I've picked up a new one at work, and I really don't know how it happened. I made a new group of friends when I moved down this way, and I was, we're all on the same team, and then I got a promotion, so I was their assistant manager on the team, and they started calling me the big dog to take the piss.
The big dog,
and it fucking stuck. Like they latched onto it, so now all I get is all right, big dog. God. It makes me sound like I've instigated it in some way myself.
Your arrogance has caused you to be called the big dog.
Yeah, like I'm strolling around the office like, I'm the big dog. It's not the case.
Okay.
It was forced upon me, but I do still go by Ming.
Ming.
The classic
Ming character.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'll probably jump between all of them at some point.
Do whatever comes natural, mate. That's fine.
I will do. Before we get into the main course of the Metal Gear Solid series, as always, as you knew, I was wondering if you could just give the guys at home an insight into what you have now in terms of gaming systems and what your gaming preferences are.
Yeah, I recently upgraded to an Xbox One.
Yes.
After much debate, the big debate, PS4 or Xbox One.
So you was actually debating the two of them, was you?
I was. The main thing, I've always been PlayStation. That's the thing. I've always been a massive fan of Sony.
Good boy.
Had the PlayStation 1 when that came out. I got that on my 9th birthday, and that was just a dream come true. I asked for one for years and years and years. Well, as many years as you could. From when it came out, I wanted one. And mother took it upon herself to get me a second-hand Master System instead, so not quite the same thing.
No, that's older than the Mega Drive. Jesus.
I might have cried as well, actually. I might have cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I think that shows the ambition of the gamer within me, So got that. Had the PS1, got the PS2 on my 13th birthday. It was always birthday presents.
Yeah, of course it was.
Can't afford that shit, can you, when you're a kid? So
got no income, got nothing.
Had the PS3, which I actually bought so that I could play MGS4, interestingly enough. So got that. Wife actually got that for me on a phone contract. She got herself a shitty phone.
Yes, I saw these.
So that I could, bless her. She was stuck with the phone. She tried to return it, and they were like, "No, you've got to bring back the PS3 as well." And I was like, "Well, that ain't gonna fucking happen." So got myself a tidy little PS3, which I've still got. Had the Xbox 360, of course.
Yeah.
For Halo, this, that, and the other. Massive fan of the Halo franchise.
Yes.
But as I say, upgraded to an Xbox One on the Black Friday deal.
Yes. Yeah.
So well chuffed with that. Got a little bit of a deal. Unfortunately, it came with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed, I actually bought it.
What, Unity?
I upgraded because I wanted to play the new Assassin's Creed. That is extra devastation on the Assassin's Creed front.
That is a stinger, isn't it?
Oh mate, I was gutted. It was playable, but I digress. Won't go into it. I know you've gone for it massively. I think they've taken a beating, haven't they? I don't think they need it anymore. There's no need to flog a dead horse, is there?
Kicking them down, it's not fair.
Yeah.
So is there an ambition in the future if circumstances go your way to upgrade onto a PlayStation 4 at some point?
It certainly is, yeah. I still play my PS3, but there weren't enough new games that are unavailable on the previous gen.
Sure.
If that makes sense. For me to upgrade to the PS4, so I thought Xbox One's the way to go.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the Halo games eventually, so I thought, well, I'll stick with that first of all.
And bring it back into Metal Gear Solid. That's now going to be available on the Xbox. So
I know. I'm surprised they did that. But I think Kojima's cottoned on now, hasn't he?
There's money to be made there. Yeah. So why not do that?
He doesn't want to miss out. So so. That's my console roster at the moment.
Excellent.
PS3 and Xbox One.
Superb. Now, before we start this, I've got to put it out there for the people that are listening and said we're going to be going through the Metal Gear Solid series. So there's going to be spoilers throughout this podcast, I'd imagine. So if you haven't played any of these games and you're planning to and you don't want anything to be spoiled, switch off now. We'll be talking about everything Metal Gear Solid, so it'll be mainly focusing on sort of Metal Gear Solid 1 to 4, a bit of Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes. We may touch on some of the smaller sort of spin-offs and that, but there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to hear any of them, switch off now and don't come complain to me if you do have anything spoiled. Now, this is the Metal Gear Solid special, but we have to remember that, before Metal Gear Solid, there was, in fact, Metal Gear, which was on the NES, I believe, in the very late 80s, and that was Hideo Kojima's first sort of crack at it. He's the god for me of the Metal Gear sort of universe. There was a sequel, Snake's Revenge, which Kojima wasn't involved with, and then Metal Gear Solid 2, Solid Snake came out, which he did, in fact, was the helm of. Did you ever get the chance to play any of these? I know that two of them I think they were bundled in with one of the HD packs or something like that. Did you ever go back and play them? Yeah.
I didn't actually. I've always planned to. It's always been something in the back of my mind. I've got to do that, but it wasn't necessarily a priority. I think because it was before my time, and I just thought on the older platforms, you're very limited with what you're going to get, and I thought, well, is it going to be that much of an enriching experience for me to warrant spending however many hours trying to go through it?
And at least you can rock hard those games as well. Yeah,
mate.
That's the thing, isn't it? They are rock hard. Any game from the early 90s and the late 80s and before that, they are borderline impossible for someone of my skill level to get through.
You haven't got a fucking chance, especially with the old consoles, because you couldn't save.
No.
As I say, now they've put in a save feature on it. All right, you've got a bit more of a chance, but still, I think you're gonna be plugging in a lot of gaming hours, and it's as I say, you're limited by the graphics and everything else. We're spoilt now, aren't we?
Yeah,
in a way. So it's
tricky.
Haven't done it. No. Haven't got around to it. It will happen one day. It's one of those things. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Shall we say?
Okay. Well, here we go then. It's 1998 rolls around, and we get the release of what is at the time groundbreaking Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation. Now, I personally didn't pick this up for a little while. Again, it's back, as you mentioned, it's back in the dark ages when I'm at the mercy of my parents to not only get the console for me, but to, in fact, give me the games as well.
Yeah.
I didn't have a paper round at the time, so I think when you're sort of 11 onwards, that's when you can start getting a paper round, but it was before then. But when I did finally get my hands on it, and it was very late in the day, I just... wow, what a game it was. It completely, for me, changed my expectations of what a video game could be, not just in terms of the way it played, because the gameplay mechanics were unique at the time, but how they can tell a story, and it was the first one for me that pretty much was a film and a game rolled into one. You had the in-engine cutscenes, the music, the story, the voice work. It literally blew my mind, and it set the bar so high for me back then. When did you manage to get hold of the first Metal Gear Solid, and did it have as big an impact on you that it did on me?
Yeah, well, I think I borrowed the demo where you can go up to the point where you fight Ocelot.
Oh, really? You can go that far into it?
You could go that far into it, which
Jesus.
I was quite... Looking back on it is very impressive.
Massive, yeah.
Because, as you say, for the time, it was a massive game. It was a big undertaking. The game itself, I was bought that. I think my mum got that for me on my 10th birthday. I remember where did I get that from? Woolworths. Fucking Woolworths.
Yeah, they were still knocking around.
yeah. And I tried to give them the money for it myself.
Too young.
And they were like, nah, ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I just passed it to my mum. She bought it for me, and away I went. I played that thing through so many times. I was just obsessed with it. It was just phenomenal. As you say, it was completely groundbreaking.
Yeah. So
so many new features, mechanics that had never been seen before. Kojima really pushed the boat out on that one. I
get the feeling that was sort of back in the late 80s, early 90s when the first 2 or 3 came out. There was an ambition to create a game like this, but the technology wasn't there. And you could see straight away, as soon as the technology was available to make a full 3D game, they just absolutely hit a home run. They fucking nailed it. It's pretty much stealth focused, but just things like the Soliton radar had the little vision cones, so you could see where the enemies could see. I mean, they could only see 5 meters in front of them, which for genome advanced soldiers, I don't know what sort of genetic mutation has happened there. They've got poor eyes. But things like just that was good to have that to help you. But the alert mode, just having when an enemy sees you, it completely changed the way the AI reacted. And there was an alert mode. Once you was hidden long enough, there was an evasion mode, but they were still looking for you, not as actively. And then obviously it went back to infiltration mode. But there was certainly mechanics there that you hadn't seen in any other games.
No, and it gave you this sort of sense of panic as well. Like you would in a film. The big exclamation mark. It's like, oh fucking hell, I learnt that one at school. That means bad shit. It was and you could do new things as well when the alert came on, like in the first area before you go up the elevator, you could dive into the water, which you couldn't do, and I did that by accident one day, and I was like, "Fuck me, this is advanced." I couldn't believe, blew me away.
But I actually remember this is one of the few games I've played through. I think I must have done it at least 7 times. Ridiculous, really, when I look back, because I don't play anything more than twice now. If I have my way, but I remember one time I was messing around that first bit, just pissing around with the guards. I thought I was good at that time. I still had it on easy, obviously. And I was messing around. And then I got a codec call come through, and it was I think it was that Deep Throat. Who turned out to be great. He turned out to be Grey Fox, I think. In the end, and he told me, he said you can dive in the water to avoid the guards' detection. I was like, how good is that? I've played this through that scene probably about 40 times, and it's and this one random codec conversation popped up. To help me through it.
You must have been dicking around for ages on that to pop up.
I was doing that thing where you run and run into him, press square, and flip him over your shoulder.
Right.
I thought that was hilarious, so I'd go running around. Yeah.
There was always you could grab him as well. And you get that same sound. And everybody that I spoke to around that time when that game first came out, they were like, "Oh, do you do the thing where you press square and you make them go?" And they'd be like, "Did you know you could do that? Did you know you could do that?" Yeah, I knew.
I did that. I was literally about to mention that. They must have timed it so you could do that exact tune. It was incredible. And then obviously their neck broke, didn't it? Went, that's the end of them.
And if you put it on too easy a setting, their neck would break before you got the chance to finish your thing. You got to go back. You got to change it. Nightmare.
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, the cardboard boxes, hiding in the trucks, even things like there was for sniping. You had to have some medicine. Diazepam, was it?
Diazepam to stop you
shaking.
Yeah.
Stuff like that you just didn't see in games, and it was so deep. What you could, the gadgets you had, and the tools you had around you, and the codex. I mean, that was okay, yeah, it's just two faces sitting there talking, but I used to just sit there ringing people for a chat sometimes, just to find out what they was going to say.
Just see what they're going to say. Because I can't imagine the amount of hours that they must have logged recording everything, the dialogue in that game.
Yeah.
They must have got fucking sick of it by the end of it. Like, and to be that first codec, I don't know if you remember that first codec conversation that you have with Meryl. It goes on for ages, and in that first version of the game, you couldn't skip. Well, you could skip, but you had to mash the button to do it.
Through the subtitles.
Yeah, you couldn't just press triangle and it'd go and get rid of it like it does in the second one. But I mean, the other thing that really, really threw me with this game, as I said before, Kojima trying to sort of push the boat out, make everything new and exciting, and bring new ideas and push the existing consoles that were available at the time, push those consoles to the absolute limit.
Yeah.
And one of the things, it was so simple, but the fight with Mantis, and you're probably going to mention this yourself, where you had to
unplug.
You could dick around with that for so long and not realise what was going on, and then you get a codec call and it's like, try plugging it into the player 2 port. And you do that, and he can't. And he's like, I can't read your mind.
Yeah,
what is going on? And it's like,
that's
amazing.
Incredible. It's one of those things where it's just you just don't see it that often these days. And just using the tool of just the console itself to change that. Yeah. Because I was spending ages trying to shoot the bastard, and he was dodging me, and I was like, what on earth is going on? I remember I binned it and was like, right, I can't do that. Went to school on the bus the next day. I was talking to people. I was like, I got to that Psycho. They'd all played it. I got to Psycho Mantis, and they was like, you can't beat him. I was like, no. I was like, you just unplug the controller, put it in the second slot. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! I've been trying to kill the bastard for hours. I must have just not ignored the codec message. Yeah, it's things like that. That's thinking well ahead of its time. The thing is, though, you don't even see that these days. I mean, I know most of the controls are wireless, but there's options for other developers to use that. You just don't see them. Well,
with the HD collection, you have to go onto, for example, you're playing it on PS3. You have to press and hold the home button to physically change what port you're plugged into.
Wow.
So you have to do that. The other thing they did was finding Meryl's codec was printed on the back of the actual game case, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah, you could manually put in the number, couldn't you? That was it.
Mental.
Yeah.
Mental. Like, what? How did he come up with that sort of stuff? I know it's not that big a deal now, looking back on it, but at the time, what made him think?
Yeah.
Because before that, I think he made Frogger, didn't he?
Yeah, I think there was a Frogger.
Yeah, Frogger. Do you know what I mean? And to go from something like that to do, right, I'm going to do this. I'll tell you what, you need to contact this person to open this big fucking door. And the only way you can contact them is if you figure out where their number is. And it's on the back of the CD case. Amazing.
Yeah, and
so good.
At the time, you've got to remember, this is a time when I might have had 56k dial-up at the time, but the internet wasn't there to just go into game FAQs and find out this stuff.
No.
It was all through either word of mouth or your own sort of intelligence to work it out. And it's just incredible how they come up with these simple ideas, but it does make such a difference and it has such an impact on how you remember that game. And at the time, when you look back, no one was doing anything like that whatsoever.
No.
It really was, I'd say, far ahead of its time. Moving into the story of it, I mean, for me, this is where the whole story started. Obviously, I think most people, this is where they first got their taste of the Metal Gear universe.
Yeah.
This one does border on the lines of insanity a little bit, but it doesn't push it over the mark. Whereas I think particularly in 2, which we'll come on to later, I think that goes a bit too far. But I really like the story for this. It was just, you set up and you're sent into Shadow Moses to neutralise the threat of Foxhound from their nuclear Metal Gear Rex that they've got to launch them. And from there, the story just unravels into all sorts of different layers. There's a massive backstory to go through, and the codec is sort of one of your main resources for getting that backstory.
Yeah.
What did you make of the story? I mean, for me, it was really compelling, even at that time, and looking back to it now, it still holds up.
Yeah, well, I think it's got so many classic sort of plot structures that you would see in a film. Yeah. So as you say, it's the first thing that came along that was like playing a film. I watched every single cutscene in that first playthrough. I didn't want to skip anything in case I missed something. A couple of the codec conversations, as we said, they dragged on a little bit, and you maybe skip them, but the actual story itself and the pace of it, I mean, you've got this sort of underlying love story, haven't you, between Snake and Meryl, and what's going to happen there, and you know, it would just and bring in the idea of your sort of moral decision making into it as well, with the torture scene,
yes, of course,
where you choose to submit, or you know, you crack on with it is dependent on whether she lives or dies.
Yeah.
Being a 10-year-old making those sort of decisions, you know,
that is a big responsibility.
Yeah, but
don't try and use auto fire, because Ocelot will know.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. I used it.
I've used auto fire.
he definitely did not know.
Yeah.
He was just bluffing there.
On the plus side, obviously, you've got. By the end of it, you know, you save Otacon, you get the stealth, you save Meryl, you get the bandana, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that was unlimited ammo, wasn't it? The bandana, the stealth. Stealth was letting you basically go invisible. I'll be honest, my first playthrough, I binned Meryl off. I was like, I want the stealth. That sounds a lot more fun. just to, because I knew on the second playthrough, I was like, God, I could do whatever I wanted. I could fuck about with as long as I wanted, being invisible. So on my first playthrough, Meryl got binned. As soon as it came, I went submit. I didn't even give him a chance to torture me.
There's so much fucking ammo in that game anyway. You don't really need the bandana, to be fair.
You don't.
But yeah, I mean, the story, the way it ended, the way it left it open for something else. You stick till after the credits.
Yeah.
And you get the. I mean, they do it on all the games now, don't they? You get the little dialogue going on between you. There's no visual to go with it. Yeah, it's just a little teaser, a little preview of what's going on. And it was, I think, in the first one, it was just Ocelot talking with the president.
That's it. Yeah, he's talking to the president. You find out that he's. I think if we merging over into the second one, that turns out the president at the time was Solidus Snake, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic journey to go through. You had Liquid and Solid Snake as brothers. There's that relationship there. They're both clones of Big Boss, and you got the Fox die that they've been injected with the nano machines.
Yeah,
you got Roy Campbell running right on the codec.
Roy Campbell on the mic.
He's going mental.
Naomi. You've got
there's so many people, memorable people in that, and
the bosses in the game as well.
They are so
fantastic. Good. It's so unique the way they've done it, and you got people from like all over the world in it as well. Was another thing I noticed. You got Sniper Wolf from Russia.
Yes,
you've got where was Raven from? He was a fucking Inuit or something, wasn't he?
He was he come out of some shit house, and he was a big bastard though for an Inuit, but
they
were all from all over the place, and there was, I don't know where Psycho Mantis originated from, but he was a mess. I mean, out of all those bosses, if you could choose one, what was your favourite, would you say?
Oh, Christ.
Toughie, isn't it?
That is a toughie. I did really enjoy the ninja boss battle.
Yeah, with Grey Fox.
But I also, I think the last battle that you have with Metal Gear Rex, where Grey Fox actually dies, and you get that little thing of
stamped.
You got to stamp him out. Get rid of him. The bit you get that little cutscene, don't you? Where you
got the stinger.
You're looking through the stinger sort of view thing, and you want to fucking shoot, don't you? I tried
to.
Yeah, I tried to, and he's like, no, I can't do it. And it's like, well, no, I fucking want to do it because this is going on.
Yeah, I could end this here, but no, because Grey Fox is there. You're gonna, if you shoot the stinger, it's gonna kill his old friend and adversary. And his snake.
But he killed him in the previous game, apparently.
Oh no, he was quite happy to wipe him out in Zanzibar, weren't he? He didn't care about that.
I know, poor old Frank, eh?
Yeah,
Frank Yeager. Excellent.
There's so many layers to it. I mean, it's sometimes does get a bit convoluted, but this is the thing.
Good. You could talk forever about it. There's so much to it. It was just phenomenal, and it really sort of set the bar so high for any other games, and that's why it for me I always go back to that game and I always play it.
Yeah.
Even now with it, when they did the because they remade it, didn't they, on the GameCube?
Well, I was going to ask you about the Twin Snakes.
Yeah.
My first exposure to the Twin Snakes, I never had a GameCube.
Right.
Never had a Nintendo console, funnily enough. But there's always been people that have had a GameCube. I've always had a go on the N64, the GameCube, and that. I've always had some sort of exposure to it. But I remember the first time I saw the Twin Snakes, I came round to your house one time, one of the rare times I was round there. I think Bud was there too.
Oh, yeah.
And you put on the scene where Grey Fox, is fighting Metal Gear, and then I noticed they'd changed all the cutscenes and the voiceover. He was running up the walls and he was shooting him, and I was like, what on earth is going on? I'll tell you, I was a little bit disgusted when I saw that, but
yeah.
I hadn't played through the Twin Snakes. They made a lot of changes to that. They brought in Metal Gear Solid 2 gameplay mechanics, but then they changed a lot of the voice work and the music. How does that stand up, the Twin Snakes, compared to the original?
Well, I think the game mechanics that they borrowed from MGS2, it added another layer.
Sure.
That is as much as you're going to get out of it. I mean, always go back to the original. It was flawless. Everything was perfect about it. You could have had a few extra things that were a bit irritating, like going into first person mode and stuff like that. But to be honest, it didn't make that much of a difference.
Did you like the new voiceovers and music and score? I love the original. I just think the music in particular is one of the best bits about it, in that it gives it that movie feel. But I noticed they've changed some of the tracks, and the lines when they delivered them were done differently because they re-recorded them. Having played through it multiple times, I guess that you're used to those cues, and when they don't come in the manner you expected, it sort of throws you a little bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. It does. It sort of puts a stop on everything. It's like, oh, that's not how I remembered it. And like you say, the difference with the cutscenes, it got a bit too much. I think the when you defeat Raven when he's in the tank battle, which is fantastic. Part of the game very early on.
Yes.
The cutscene at the end of that was very, very basic, but it didn't need to be anything more with the original game itself.
No.
It gave you what you needed. You get the key card, you go through the next door. That's what you've done the fight for. It's done. It's over. Carry on with the game. In the Twin Snakes version, Snake picks up a grenade, and he's chucking it in the air like it's a baseball.
Right.
He throws the grenade, right, and it goes down the barrel of the tank.
Has he done that? What a shot!
And into the sort of in the cockpit.
Cockpit,
yeah, and fucks them up that way. It was fun.
Yeah,
but they made it a bit too tongue in cheek.
I'm sure I saw him. I've done this thing where I've gone back and watched like the movie version that people have made on YouTube. They've done like 4 hours. They've put together gameplay and cutscenes. I thought I'll watch the Twin Snakes. I'll watch a little bit of that one. I'm sure when Ocelot first turns up, Snake does a backflip or something ridiculous.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and it's like he's definitely not that mobile.
No.
Like, he's
already come out of retirement.
Yeah, poor cunt. He just wants to chill out. It's like, oh, fucking hell, you sent me through to Shadow Moses doing backflips now. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Kojima.
Yeah. I guess if you'd never played it before, you wouldn't notice any of this stuff, but being so into the original, they stand out a lot more as not being part of how I remember it, and I think that's it sort of threw me watching some of those.
Yeah, I mean, he was. You remember him as sort of like a war hero, and it's like, he's agile, he can shoot, and he's fucking smart. But you were never ever convinced in that first playthrough of the original that this man can do a backflip.
Yeah,
off a flat ground. It's just not. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen.
It's not happening, no. I mean, just I'm going to wrap this up, but some of my favourite parts of the game are the opening bit when you see Liquid going up in the lift, and he's like, "I've got to swat down some bothersome flies." Yeah. Little lines like that.
Why is he British as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he's got that accent from, but I love that. The key card. I mean, you mentioned the key card getting off Vulcan Raven. I remember when you get towards the end of the game, you have to go into where you kill Vulcan to that freezer bit to freeze the key card. Then you have to go to the lava or the I can't remember what they call it now.
The furnace.
The furnace.
Blast furnace or whatever it's called.
To then heat it up and just things like that. Are just so ahead of its time, and games these days don't implement things like that.
No.
The Mantis boss battle, Sniper Wolf 1 and 2. It was just, there's so much stuff in there, and so much good stuff. DARPA Chief, I loved him till he cropped it and put it away, but. It was brilliant. I remember one bit where you have to find Meryl, don't you? She's dressed up as one of the guards. Yeah. And the way to identify her is by the way she walks.
Her arse.
Her arse wiggling. Yeah. So you have to go around looking at all these blokes' arses and going, well, is he walking like a no? Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's so good. And
if you follow her quick enough, she takes off her trousers as well, doesn't she?
The she?
Yeah. That was one of the. There were loads of little tricks. It was basically they completely sexualized this character because you could go when you first see her. Just a little bit of info for those who are interested. Yeah. You can go in the vent because you see her in the vent doing the sit-ups before you drop down where the DARPA chief is or Decoy Octopus as it actually was.
That's it.
When you go in and that first bit where you look down at her. If you go back out and go in again, she loses an item of clothing. you got to do it a couple of times, but so that's that.
One of your memories.
You can make her blush as well. That was one of the other tricks. But it is little things like that, as we say, that it makes it stand out, and it was so different, and it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, the thing is, it not only had those little things, it was a total package in the fact that you had. The cinematics and the gameplay go along with it, and just those little touches just put it on a different level. It was groundbreaking with its movie style production, the unique gameplay, the compelling story, and I think it has to go down there as one of the best ever Metal Gear Solid for me.
Yeah.
Let's go on to its sequel. So the PlayStation runs its course. That gets binned off, and the PlayStation 2 comes out, which goes down as one of the most popular consoles of all time.
Yeah.
The sequel arrives in 2001 in the United States. We don't get it in Europe till 2002, so it's that far back that there's still delays on regions for games, which you just don't see now. There's normally a worldwide release date. And it didn't half take advantage of the more powerful PS2. But
it did. It looked phenomenal, didn't it?
Yeah, and the stuff they added, but... Let's not pussyfoot around the main issue of Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. By far one of the most controversial things about the game is the fact that, apart from the opening prologue when you're on the tanker, we do not play as Solid Snake.
Doesn't get a look in, does he?
Doesn't get a look in. Pliskin, as he's called.
What?
What's that happening?
Yeah.
Enter Raiden.
Yeah.
And as soon as the big shell sequence fired up and I hear Connell do his little spiel, Snake, blah, blah, blah. And all the first sort of opening line, I think, is just Raiden saying, Colonel, this is Snake. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, seriously.
What is going on?
I was around a friend of mine called Dale. I mean, if you're listening, Dale, I need to talk to you because we haven't spoken to you in a while. But I remember I used to go around his house and he loved Metal Gear Solid 2. And when that happened, we just both looked at each other and were stunned. We was like, what on earth is this? And then when it reveals it is Raiden, we was like, right. What's going on here? What was your initial thoughts of Raiden when he was unveiled? I mean, I was still hoping throughout the game at some point they'd either bump Raiden off and you'd take up Snake's role again, or end up with him. But what did you make of this change in gear?
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it too much because I really did enjoy the tanker mission, and you could stretch that mission out, especially if you were collecting the dog tags and bits and pieces like that. However, it's such a one-dimensional character. There wasn't anything to him. You got this whole thing with, again, they bring in the sort of love story with him and Rose, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that thing, and he's like, "Oh, what the fuck are you doing with the Colonel, helping him out? Blah blah blah. Why are you getting involved?" And it's like, oh, bit of drama, but then it wasn't enough. It wasn't as gripping as the first story.
No.
It was the gameplay saved it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's so much added, weren't there? I mean, first-person aim, which, okay, is a bit awkward, but it allowed you to shoot guards' radios, shoot guns out of their hands.
Yeah, there was so much. I mean, it was typical Kojima again. He was just trying to push the barriers of what was available to him at the time, which we'll discuss as we go through the series. But with this one, I mean, you had the theme of like the ninja. recurring again, didn't you, with
Olga turning up.
Olga Galukovic.
Good pronunciation, nailed it.
Yeah, I could have put on the accent for a little twist, but I didn't feel confident in doing it. Also, who else? I mean, the bosses as well. I mean,
you've got Vamp makes his first appearance, doesn't he? You got Fat Man, which was a sort of a take on almost Vulcan Ravens one in a way, but you've got bombs to disarm. You've got, obviously, we've talked about Road. Another thing I thought was a bit strange was this whole Ocelot and Liquid Snake dual personality thing, where his arm takes over his
body. They got into kind of supernatural stuff.
Yeah,
a little bit in the first one, didn't they? And then they by the second one, I think they just thought, oh, do you know what? Just fuck it. We'll just do it. Yeah, we'll just do it, and we'll just see what happens, really. And it's like, I've had psychotherapy to take on his personality. It's like, well, you didn't need to, did you?
No,
really?
Come on, you was fine as you were.
You're all right. You were kicking ass, mate. And now you're a wreck. He was an absolute wreck, especially at the end of that tanker mission. It's just like, mate, you need to lie down. What's the matter with you?
You're in no position to start sieging big shells and taking stuff over. You should not be doing that.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of condition you're in.
Exactly.
It went down that route where I think the story went a little bit too far. I mean, it turns out the whole not tanker mission, the whole big shell's a bit of a ruse, isn't it, for us, like a simulation for Raiden, and
it was Arsenal gear, wasn't it?
Arsenal gear sitting underneath it. I mean, there's a few good twists in there, but then you find a Colonel starts turning into an AI robot, and I was like, what on earth is going on here? They sort of
that really pissed me off, actually, that last bit. Losing all your equipment and you're running about naked doing
cartwheels with one hand, covering his private part. I was like, what is going on here? The only good thing I like the gameplay bit where they give you the ninja sword and you sort of get a go at that.
Yeah, it was all right, wasn't it? It was
you weren't as good as Grey Fox, but
no, but it was a nice, because you always wanted to play as Grey Fox in the first. I mean, you did get to a little bit in the VR mission add-on thing that came out as well, but again, that was just a little thing that didn't really take hold as much as the main games, did it? But I mean, as you say, being able to use the sword, it wasn't that fucking useful though, was it? I mean, I've tried to play through that game, through that last bit, just using the sword, and it's near on impossible. But the other thing with the weaponry that they did do is they sort of gave you this morality about it of you making the decision, right, am I going to kill people or am I just going to knock them out?
Yeah, cause I think this is one of the first ones where it was the first one where you can actually go through the whole game without causing a deliberate death. Yeah. I think the people die from circumstance, but you could knock them out, as you say, rather than actually just put a bullet in their heads and put them out of their misery.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, as much as everyone tried in the tanker mission, when you fight Olga, and you knock her out, as much as everyone tried, as soon as they got the ammo, it's like, right, I'm going to fucking go back out there and shoot that bitch in the head. She was gone. You couldn't do that. No. So, but I think it's nice that they added that in, and it sort of paved the way for the other games that were coming out, and you could get into this whole sort of big boss sort of play through, and it's like, oh well, you're not big boss unless you do it with just the tranquilizers, or if you're just knocking people out, as long as you're not spotted. And it added, you could do the game, you could fuck about, and you could plow through it and kill everyone, do what you need to do, just have fun with it. And then it's like, right, okay, I'm going to challenge myself in this next playthrough. I'm going to go back, and it encourages you to go back and play the games as well, because you get all the special items
and you play it. It's a different strategy as well. You have to do things differently. Yeah. Because you're going to have to be a lot more careful. You're going to have to pick your chances. It's all not like you're not playing a new game, but you have to play it in such a way that it's probably going to be a totally different experience from the first time it went through.
Yeah.
So I mean, some of the other additions of Metal Gear Solid 2 that they added in was you could change your sneak speed, couldn't you? So there was certain parts of the levels where it would make noise unless you sort of held the analog stick slower.
That's it. Yeah.
Things like you could leap and hang over edges. You could fire from cover. You could hide in lockers this time.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, the guards had far improved AI. They actually worked in squads, didn't they? So they would call out for backups. So again, if you shot the radio out, you could stop them from doing that. They would flank you. They had riot shields. It was a massive upgrade. In what we'd seen before in terms of the gameplay, and it really added a lot more depth and set the bar again for what you could do in these stealth games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean the other thing, one of the things you mentioned there with the guards, especially with the AI, the radio mic, they had to report in every now and again.
Yeah, of course.
That was a real fucking game changer.
So if they didn't report in for their check, you'd knocked out or killed them, they would send a squad to investigate that area.
Exactly. So it was like, right, I've got no choice. I've got to get around this guy without him. So it encourages you to play it in a different way and adapt to it, and obviously that. Whenever you sort of go on and play it through on a more higher difficulty,
European extreme. God almighty.
Us Europeans, we're fucking extreme.
Where have they got that from?
I don't know. It's just Christ. Maybe it's just Japan's view on the Western world. It's is it extreme? Well, yeah, it is, but no. Wait. Is it European extreme? Well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
That's taking it a bit too far.
Yeah. Whoa. But I mean, the AI was so much better. The boss battles were a lot harder.
I had a pain in the arse trying to do Solidus over at the end. That took me forever. I knew it was
the last bit with the sword.
Yeah, and he's got that extended arm. He's firing fire out, and I was like, my goodness, it took me a long time to do that.
Oh yeah, because he's got his Dr. Octopus fucking arms on, and all the fire shit going on, and that was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. But you could did you ever go back and change the cutscenes? You could create the cutscenes in your own way by adding different characters to the cutscenes.
Was that like the creator? Is it creator studio or something?
Something like that.
Mode or theatre mode or something. I never know.
That was it.
I tell you what, I tried to, and I just couldn't work out what I was doing, so I binned it off.
Yeah.
But I take it you did.
Well, you could, for example, you could have it that final battle. I think one of the ones that you could do, you could change it so that it was Rose as Raiden fighting the Colonel. Basically, with like samurai swords, which is just like I think it's just Kojima's way of putting funny stuff in it because he loves to do that in these games, doesn't he?
Yeah. And he loves to break down the fourth wall as well. I mean, going back to Metal Gear Solid 1, which I forgot to mention. I mean, one of the first codec messages you have the Colonel telling you to press the select button to bring up the codec, and it's telling you instructions on your control, so it's aware you're playing a video game.
Yeah,
it just nails it. It's nice to press the action button to drop down, which is obviously the triangle button. So it's fully aware that you're playing a game. It doesn't try and hide that, but
it makes you very aware of it. But he just, I don't know. He's just a genius. He doesn't shy away from trying to add in humour to the game. He doesn't think, this won't fit in with the tone of it. He just fucking goes for it. I mean, the tanker mission. I don't know if you did this, but I only found this out as one of the sort of like Easter egg things that you can do when I played for on the HD collection. Now,
go in the locker,
go in the locker, and he can knock one out if you phone Otacon. He knocks one out. And
why is he phoning Otacon to do that?
I don't know.
Otacon's probably absolutely just livid at going, why are you...
But the thing is, the rating on that game is not high enough to be watching Solid Snake
carve one out in a locker.
Carving one out on his Solid Snake. He was because you see his face as well, and it's like, Jesus, like this is really extreme. Like this is too much.
There's so much of that stuff in there that you can piss around
and
with.
They're still doing it, and when as we get onto the other games, we'll obviously talk about that. But they're still doing it now, and I think he just fucking loves it. I think Kojima's just a little rascal, isn't he?
Yeah, he does. What was is there any standout moments from Metal Gear Solid 2 that you would go back and play over and over again, or just points maybe in the story that got you in ways that have burnt into your brain?
I think. When I think about it, there's a lot of sort of layering, and you're finding out a lot more about the backstory of people.
Sure.
You get a bit more into sort of Otacon's life, and you find out he's got this sister. She's actually on the plant. And then when she dies, I mean, that was fucking sad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, because you go in to save her, and then it turns out it was all in vain anyway. She ends up snuffing it, and
Vamp stabs her or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a horrible
little bastard.
Yeah.
But I mean, that bit there as well. You've got that bit just before Emma dies. You're trying to protect her, aren't you? She's going around that bit. She's having to walk on those beams, isn't she? And like the sun's setting, and you've got the water there. It looked fucking awesome for the time. Looking back on it now, it's not what we've got now, obviously, but at the time it was phenomenal. And that sniping bit there, I really did enjoy that bit, because that was something you didn't get to really play around with in the first game with the sniper rifle too much. No. There was only a few moments where you had to use it, but you had this one dedicated moment for it. And they just fucking nailed it, I think. But I don't know about you, but there wasn't that many standout bits. It was just nice to find out extra little bits of the individual characters, of their history, and the relationships between them. And there's all these twists going on, like Raiden being raised by what's his name, Solidus. Yeah, that's it. And it's kind of, in a way, it's like Snake's his uncle, and then it's like, oh, this is getting really fucking messed up now. Yeah. And his name was Jack, wasn't it? Raiden's Jack the Ripper, they called him, and he was a child soldier.
It's original.
Yeah, I know. Well done. Pat yourself on the back.
Well, at least they're acknowledging Jack the Ripper existed in this universe. So he was still knocking around in the 1800s, cutting people up. Exactly. One of my memories of it is just when you take on about 20 Metal Gear Rays back to back. Oh, it's just fucking carnage.
It was impossible almost. It was like I've watched a video online of someone doing that on European Extreme without getting hit, no damage, and it's just like, Jesus, you've played this too much. Like, just look outside, mate. Just get some fresh air and like
it's insane.
Just chill the fuck out. It was too much. It was really over the top, and I think it took the shine away from the fact that you're building up to this moment where you have to fight this Metal Gear, which are all the robots and shit that they build. They're all called Metal Gear, and the whole story is building up to that point in the game where you have to fight that machine. Yeah, and it was a bit of a slap in the face from the first game, where you just have this one dedicated powerhouse, and then you've got all these sort of little pussy Metal Gears that are coming along, and you can...
they overdo it, don't they?
It
loses its impact, because you think, well, if I can take on 20 of these in a row, then they're not really any sort of threat, are they? Yeah.
I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it was a bit over the top. Shortly after that, you get the cutscene with Fortune as well, don't you? Where she's like... And he's like, she thinks she's magic or something. She's got this. She reckons she's got telekinetic
she's
powers.
Invincible and something.
She's like, oh, can you be the one? Can you be the one to kill me? I think the first time you see her, the first thing she says is, "Today is another bad day," and it's like, oh fucking hell, you really brought this down, love. Just cheer the fuck up, Jesus Christ! I know your dad got shot in the tanker mission, but come on, come on, look to the future.
Get over it.
But then it's just brilliant the way Ocelot, he just turns off her barrier and shoots her in the heart, and it's just like,
she goes bang,
you silly bitch. I fucking had you the whole time. That was good.
I was still a bit cut up about Peter Stillman dying, the little bomb expert that helps you.
Poor bastard.
Fat man does him over. I was a bit livid about that.
Oh no, he was. There was something really comforting about him.
Yeah. He was a good boy.
But they like to keep it diverse, don't they? They've got people from all over the place. So
yeah, and a fucking vampire running riot.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like Austrian or something. Where's he from?
I reckon they just spin the globe and go, boom, you're from Scandinavian.
Yeah, exactly. But he was fucking frightening. What was that thing about you had the president, didn't you, at one point in the game?
You had to. He was held captive, wasn't he? And you had to go in just dressed as a guard, which I always want, for whatever reason. I always wanted to dress as a guard in Metal Gear Solid, and that gave me the chance to dress up as one properly and walk around. You get into the bit where he's in clothes, and you have to use a gadget of some sort, 'cause he's got a pacemaker, and it
oh yeah, you use the directional microphone.
That's
don't
it.
you?
Yeah, and it reads their heart, and if it's got, you think he's got like a little thud in it, and you know he's got a pacemaker in the air. He's held captive. I can't remember how he dies though. Whether he just snuffs it.
I think he has a heart attack. They got something. They're all about the lolly lule low, aren't they?
Yeah.
In this one, and he spouts off some shit about that, and then he snuffs it.
Yeah, which seems to happen a lot actually.
Yeah, but in that scene as well, you can put the mic off to one side, and you can hear, what's his fucking name? The guy, it's basically the guy, the guard, sorry, that Meryl fucks over in the first one.
Yeah.
The one that she knocks, who she ends up marrying, doesn't she, in Metal Gear Solid 4?
Yeah.
Akiba, they call him. Johnny, that's it.
Johnny.
And you can hear him.
Is that one who's always got the shits?
Yeah, he's in absolute turmoil off in the toilet somewhere, and he's still going on about it, and poor bastard.
Well, yeah, because if you go back to Metal Gear Solid 1, he gives you an opening to get out of when you get in prison, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And
so, I just want to jump back to that. That's one moment I totally forgot about in Metal Gear Solid 1, where you're in that prison and there's a couple of options to get out. I think the one I used was I laid down and then spurted ketchup out, and then when the guard comes back, he sees and thinks you're dead, then you take advantage of that and escape. It's just...
Yeah. It is amazing.
Ridiculous.
Or you can wait for the ninja to come and let you out, can't you?
Gray Fox comes along and goes, get out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, topping off with Metal Gear Solid 2, I mean, it was I think gameplay wise, that was it was a step up in terms of what was offered on Metal Gear Solid 1. Obviously they had a massive upgrade in hardware to do it, but it didn't quite hit the same high notes, and for me as Metal Gear Solid 1. It's still a fantastic game, but I'd still put Metal Gear Solid 1 above Metal Gear Solid 2, but it certainly added enough new features to make it a very, very enjoyable game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was good. It was memorable. It was the first game that I had on the PS2. It was why I wanted to get that console.
That's a good point. I mean, I've read reports that single-handedly, killed off the Dreamcast and put Sony's PlayStation as number one.
Poor old Dreamcast. Poor old Sega. Fucking
poor old Sega.
Can't catch a break.
No, they can't. But it was that good a game that it was a console seller. And you don't see that these days that often, that a single game can turn an audience straight onto that particular console.
That's it. Yeah,
because it was an exclusive.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, guys. You can catch the second part of the Metal Gear Solid special on February the 8th, so make sure you tune in for that. Me and Mr. Menzies will be going through Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater and Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Our Twitter handle here at Dimp Digital is at Dimp Digital, and our Facebook page is facebook.com/Dimp Digital, and our email address is dimpdigitalmedia@gmail.com. Check out the YouTube channel again. Type in Dimp Digital, will be the first one to pop up. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and get some comments in and over to us. But that's it for now. Game over. It's goodbye from Alex Menzies and Joe Appleyard. Thanks very much for your time, and ta-da.
I went into 3 at like 8 in the morning because they were like, we don't even know if we've got enough to fill like the even the pre-orders. There's no other cunt there. It was just me. And then they were like, we're just going to take a photo of you as the first customer to come in and pick up your fucking iPhone. I hadn't even like washed my face. I just got out of bed, put on my trainers and ran out the door.
So you got up at 8 o'clock to go and get an iPhone 6 on release?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.